Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. It's September in Kansas. Can you believe it? What a wet week we've had. On the program today, we're going to spend some time with David Schemm, the Farm Service Agency Director for the state of Kansas. The Market Facilitation Program sign-up is underway. We're going to get into some of the details of the things you need and when and where to go to sign up if you want to participate in that program. Also, we'll have updates from Kansas Corn, the Kansas Soybean Commission, and the Kansas Department of Agriculture, plus our weekly updates from the Kansas Livestock Association and Paragon Ag Advisors. This is the Kansas Ag Report.
Closed captioning brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
And welcome back. Joining us is David Schemm, who is the State Director of the Farm Service Agency here in Kansas. David, appreciate you joining us, and we told folks that we were going to get a chance to sit down, and actually we're going to spend both segments with you talking about this. USDA came out now. The announcement's been made. Sign-up actually began on Monday for folks for this USDA possible kind of trade transition payment. I know there's an official name to it, but really folks know that there's something there. You know, the amounts per bushel of commodity and livestock have been there. If you want to touch on that, that's fine. But maybe let's talk of kind of where we are right now, kind of how we got to the point of that announcement being made.
Sure, absolutely. Exactly. Thanks, Ken. Kind of what we want to emphasize, we want to kind of know and kind of walk people through the process of is obviously the administration, the Secretary of Ag Purdue acknowledged very much that the tariffs, that these trade wars that are occurring were impacting farmers, and in fact, it's almost 40% of the tariffs that have come against the U.S. have been targeted at ag. So obviously, our ag economy, our ag producers out there have been taking the brunt of these tariffs that have taken there. So the tariff program had kind of three components. There's kind of a food program, there's kind of a foreign market development side of the program, but the lion's share, about $4.7 billion, is being administered by the Farm Service Agency through USDA. And like you said, it's based upon a basic formula of a development of what the impact of those tariffs have been on a commodity. That's why it varies between commodity. I know there's been a lot of discussion, for soybeans at $1.65, corn at $0.01, sorghum at 86 cents. Even with the livestock, hogs at $8. They have figured out that rate multiplied by production and then multiplied by a 50% factor, and that's what producers will get paid on. Okay,
so there is a lot of questions that we've been fielding. Why the 50%? Because some say, well, if things turn back around, you won't get that. Some are saying, well, that 50%, it depends on how the elections turn out. I know you don't want to get political, but I mean, those are things that are floating out in people's minds, Dave.
And I appreciate that. And so I guess what I would say, and I think it's pretty logical, as these programs going on, recently the administration announced a lot of progress on a possible Mexican agreement or a NAFTA agreement coming forward. I think there's some optimism associated possibly with China. So those tariffs and those trade wars can change. And so that 50% is one response is what has happened up to this point. And then the other 50% is targeted at the future. In fact, USDA, we have flat out said that come the first part of December, it'll be re-looked at again, and the second half, the other 50% of that production, if necessary, could get well paid upon.
Okay. We're talking with David Schemm, who is the State Director of the Farm Service Agency here in Kansas. We'll take a break, and there's more to discuss coming up in just a moment.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
And we're joined this week by David Schemm, who is the State Director of the Kansas Farm Service Agency. And we're talking about this latest program now from USDA with the tariff situation, payments for farmers. Another time we'll talk more about the other things, but what we want to focus on is what the FSA is going to be doing. So let's take it through the process. Again, sign-up started just a few days ago, right after Labor Day. So if I'm a farmer, do I need to go in right away and sign up? And you know, it looks like harvest could be extended. So there's a lot of questions out there of what are the steps I need, and then so everybody knows.
So absolutely great, Ken. Yeah, good points here. What I want to be clear in messaging out there to our producers is that 100% of their crop needs to be harvested before we can pay them. So sign-up period did start on September 4th. The deadline for sign-up does not end until January 15th, so our producers have plenty of time to get in there and actually sign up for the program. But obviously we cannot pay them until 100% of their crop is harvested. So right now, with the sign-up now opening, actually from a crop production standpoint, it's only basically going to be our wheat producers out there that can come in and certify their production. And that's one thing I do want to make sure I'm clear on, Ken, is that for wheat, and this goes for our corn, soybeans, again, cotton, sorghum, all of those crops, we're asking that the producer certifies their production. So what I'm saying, they don't need to bring in a whole file box full of scale tickets or ledger sheets or any of that. They need to know what their share of that crop is. All of that crop is, and they'll come in there and they'll give us those bushels. We'll ask them to sign off on it, and then we'll be able to pay them based upon that.
And again, this is like other programs to where it has all the guidelines as far as income guidelines, the active farmer, all that. But the other unique thing, though, is this is kind of a standalone program. Say you don't participate in the programs, other programs for USDA. This is somewhat kind of unique.
Yeah, and good. I'm glad you brought that up because, yes, it is kind of a unique program. There's actually different payment limits set with this program. So most of our producers out there have a $125,000 payment limit set with our ARC and PLC programs there. Underneath the MFP or Market Facilitation Program, there's a $125,000 limit set for the crops. And there's another $125,000 set for the livestock, which is the dairy and the hogs. Those two payment limits are totally separate from a producer's ARC and PLC payment limit there. And again, like you said, this is a totally different program, so they'll need to come in, like I mentioned earlier, sign up for the program. When they have that crop all harvested, come in with the number of bushels that they own, their share of them, and they'll need to give us that and sign off on that, and then we'll be able to issue a check.
We talk a lot about grains. Let's talk just briefly on the livestock. I think the dairy folks I've talked to fairly pleased. And this is, you know, with the so much per hundred. This looks like dairy's kind of working fine. Pork guys kind of and gals kind of scratching their head. Picked August the 1st and $8 a head, regardless of what size of hog that is. Do you have any insight of how we came up with that with that dollar amount based on? That is a background that I would not be able to speak with experience in. But obviously, there's a lot of challenges in trying to set weight limits and various things like that. And I think what the goal of USDA was here is obviously to give help to those hog producers out there and to make it relatively simple and straightforward for them versus them having to try to certify or prove that the hog was this old or weighed so much. And so it made it a pretty straightforward program for our hog producers, many of them who are not necessarily very familiar in working with FSA and participating with those programs. Okay, before we let you go, again, folks, if we didn't get their questions answered, they can go online. I think there's a whole rundown of a lot of frequently asked questions.
Absolutely. Farmer.gov MFP. They can go to that, they find that data, and actually we're hopeful by mid, maybe even late September, that they actually, if they can pass several, what we call an EAuth level 2, they'll be able to fill the form online.
Hope so. Good. Well, David, thanks a lot for the update. Appreciate
Thank you, Ken.
giving the insight. David Schemm, the State Director of the Kansas Farm Service Agency, has joined us. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up on the Kansas Ag Report.
This segment brought to you by Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Hi, I'm Sue Schulte with Kansas Corn, and here's what's going on with the Kansas Corn Growers Association. The association represents its members in policy and regulatory issues and promotes Kansas corn. Kansas Corn works with the National Corn Growers Association on several issues that impact corn farmers, including ethanol. Here's an update. In the area of ethanol, Kansas Corn, along with NCGA and our ethanol partners, have been working especially hard this year to protect market access for ethanol and to maintain a strong renewable fuel standard. This is the law that provides market access for ethanol. We've seen many challenges from the oil industry and from EPA, including over 2 billion gallons worth of waivers that EPA has handed out to oil refineries. And while EPA followed the law when setting the 2019 ethanol volumes at 15 billion gallons as the law requires, it failed to account for the lost market access for the 2.25 billion gallons of ethanol that have been waived. Farmers across Kansas and the nation submitted comments to EPA on the renewable volume proposal, and we will continue to work to protect the RFS that provides needed market access to ethanol makers. We're also working with the Kansas Corn Commission to expand the number of stations that offer higher ethanol blends in Kansas and across the nation. Find out more by following Kansas Corn on social media or by visiting our website at kscorn.com.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News, a reliable and relevant source. agview.net.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow Research Program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm & Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm & Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
Farmers should start thinking about the annual Kansas Soybean Yield and Value Contests. Entries must be postmarked no later than December 1, but Kansas State University Extension personnel or a designee must witness the harvest. A designee may be anyone not involved with the farm enterprise. Contestants should notify their Extension county offices of when harvest is to begin as early as possible. The harvest witness must inspect the combine's grain hopper and verify it is empty before harvest begins. Thanks to the Kansas Soybean Commission, the highest dry land and irrigated yields in the contest each will receive a $1,000 award. In each district, first place will win $300, second will earn $200, and third will receive $100. A winner could earn an additional $1,000 for achieving or surpassing 100 bushels per acre. Managed by the Kansas Soybean Association, the contests are free to all Kansas farmers. There is a limit of 1 entry per field. One person may enter multiple categories, conventional or no-till, dry land or irrigated. Farmers may enter the value contest, which evaluates protein and oil contents without entering the yield contest, and vice versa. The complete rules are available at kansassoybeans.org/contests on the web and in K-State Extension offices across the state. Winners will receive their plaques, certificates, and monetary awards during the Kansas Soybean Expo, January 9, 2019, in Topeka.
September is Food Safety Education Month, and food safety for all Kansans is part of the mission for the Kansas Department of Agriculture. Often people are surprised that food safety and restaurant inspections fall under the Department of Agriculture, but we know that food and agriculture are closely tied together, and we work to ensure a safe food supply throughout the food chain, from the fields to your plates. Our food safety and lodging program works with restaurants, grocery stores, convenience stores, food wholesalers, food manufacturers, and other food operations across the state, so they all understand and follow the Kansas Food Code and other statutes that serve to keep consumers safe from foodborne illness. Preparing and selling high-quality, safe food begins with well-trained and knowledgeable food service workers, so we work to provide educational materials to food service establishments in a variety of ways. For the past year, a food safety task force has participated in regional meetings to expand knowledge on subjects like the new Food Safety Modernization Act, the Food Inspection Program, food recalls, and other issues. And the task force has also provided input about ways to improve sharing of information in the future. We have created a long list of fact sheet handouts for food service establishments to use for staff training and ongoing education, and we have recently translated these handouts so they are now available in Spanish and Chinese in addition to English. Our food safety staff travels the state presenting Focus on Food Safety workshops where they share key steps to food safety so that we can prevent foodborne illness in Kansas. Follow along with KDA on Facebook and Twitter this month as we share more facts, safety tips, recipes, and educational resources about Food Safety Education Month.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow Research Program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
A coalition of ag groups, including the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, recently submitted a letter to Farm Bill negotiators on the conference committee expressing the importance of a vaccine bank for animal diseases in the United States. NCBA and the Kansas Livestock Association continue to push for authorization and full funding of a foot and mouth disease vaccine bank. In the past, the U.S. strategy for an FMD outbreak relied on the depopulation of affected cattle. After extensive study and discussion, regulatory authorities and the livestock sector now support managing an outbreak through vaccination. The current U.S. bank only contains enough vaccine for a small, confined FMD outbreak. Preparation of a ready-to-administer vaccine currently would take weeks. By the time vaccines were widely administered, the entire U.S. beef industry would be in economic and animal welfare chaos. Foot and mouth vaccine production is limited worldwide, with no excess capacity to produce the millions of doses it would take in the event of a large-scale outbreak in the U.S. An FMD outbreak would immediately close all beef export markets, which have supported beef demand in recent years. Estimates are beef export losses alone within the first year would be about $6.34 billion. As members of Congress work to finalize the 2018 Farm Bill, NCBA and KLA will support full mandatory funding of $150 million per year for 5 years to provide a robust U.S. vaccine bank capable of producing the supplies needed to deal with any potential FMD outbreak.
Good morning. I'm Cody Wintersheet with Paragon Ag Advisors. The grain markets sure have a little better look and feel to them now versus a few weeks ago, and thankfully so. The markets have recovered a fair bit from their mid-July low areas at this point. However, this type of recovery rally is not out of the ordinary for markets to have a steep sell-off, and probably got overdone at least for that point in time. The interesting thing is right now we still do not have the trade deals worked out with the major countries we're in disputes with. It also certainly looks like we're in for another pretty good crop nationally, but where the final yield ends up is anyone's guess. As always, there's plenty of debate on yield and the weather, etc. going on at this point in the year. It's easy to fall into the trap of freezing up and not taking advantage of various opportunities because of all that chatter. However, the crop conditions are still holding at very adequate levels to correlate to strong yield potential. Some things to keep in mind is, again, recovery rallies are normal to see after steep sell-offs. Secondly, from a seasonal rally perspective, we're on the back end, particularly for the corn. Lastly, don't let your emotions get the better of you or make marketing decisions by looking out the back door. This recent rally sure has the look of an opportunity to get caught up on some marketing. Obviously, that is a very broad statement. Every operation is different, and there are a multitude of things that would play into how much one should be doing, as well as what marketing tools to be using when making those decisions. Furthermore, the next USDA report will be on August 10th. Have a great day.
Closed captioning brought to you by the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers. KansasSoybeans.org. Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Weed Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for weeds. Online at kswheat.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org.
Spring is sprung, and Premier Farm and Home has what you need to keep your yard crabgrass free throughout the season. With a complete line of pre-emergents, you can stop crabgrass before it starts. Premier Farm and Home, 900 Southwest University Boulevard, or find them on the web at heycow.com.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
What if sustainability were synonymous with U.S. soy? If energy efficiency, water quality, and soil health help define U.S. soy's value, that future is here, the time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is committing to sustainability that's achievable, worthwhile, and enduring. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News. A reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
Well, that's our show this week. Hope you gleaned something that'll help you on your operation. We hope to see you over the next few days in Hutchinson at the Kansas State Fair. Well, be social with us online at kansasagreport.net or on Facebook and Twitter. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching the Kansas Ag Report. We'll see you next week.